My brother Chuck was 7 years older, yet somehow as years flew by and we became men, we ended up very close. Chuck was the kind of guy that truly enjoyed life because he saw and appreciated the little things. He gave excitement to the simplest event or gathering because he understood that those seemingly insignificant moments were the real masterpieces of lasting memories. "Hey, Lair, I've got some beef ribs ready for the grill and cool beer in the fridge if you're interested," he'd say as his eyes expressed the excitement of a child at play. One day, when Chuck was 34, his heart began beating twice the normal speed. The doctors had to paddle him or shock his heart back to where it needed to be. That was the beginning of 14 years filled with midnight trips to the emergency room, 2 open-heart surgeries, a pacemaker, heart catheterizations, and a barrage of pills in an effort to slow down his overactive heart. His heart's electrical wiring was firing off too many wrong signals. Spiritually, Chuck did have an overactive heart, and it was contagious. Strangers and those who knew him were drawn to his jovial, positive soul. He brought you along with him on his joyride called life. He would fuel his agenda by giving to other people. And 2 days before he died, he stood in front of a local store for hours in the cool, damp weather collecting money for mentally challenged children. I often wondered how, in his weakened state, he could give to others despite his shortness of breath and lack of energy. He always saw the half-full glass, even when it was empty. On April 9th, 2001, I got to spend all day with him as we both took the day off work to be with our mom, who underwent a heart catheter procedure of her own. We played cards in the waiting room, we ate lunch, and of course, laughed. Later that day I turned to say goodbye to Chuck as he was headed upstairs to visit a neighbor sick from cancer. Something made me stop and turn and actually look at him. I really looked at him and said, "Bye, Chuck." The elevator doors closed, lifted him up, and that was the last time I saw him alive. 3 hours later, my dad's distressed voice was on my home phone and urged me to come quickly to the hospital. "Dad, what's wrong? Is Mom okay?" I asked, worried something had gone wrong. "No," he said, "it's Chuck." My brain couldn't process it. It could make the connections. "What? Chuck, I just left him a little while ago. He was fine." "It doesn't look good. Please hurry," he said. Sitting in the small waiting room at the hospital, I knew Chuck was gone when I saw the doctor through the glass windows followed by a chaplain. I swept past them and out of the room before they could enter. I ran out of the hospital emergency door entrance, leaned on a light post, and cried a painful cry. In a short time, all my brothers and sisters arrived with their spouses, and they and I, along with my wife, made our way into Trauma Room 3. We surrounded Chuck, and in a loud, grief-stricken chorus, we cried. I remember bending down, grabbing a still warm left hand, touched the backside of his hand to my forehead, and cried, "No, Chucky, no." A name I don't ever remember calling him, but must have when I was very young, as did everyone else when he was a young boy. I remember looking up at my dad, who had come downstairs from my mother's hospital room. He was standing behind the stretcher. He was crouched down and stroking Chuck's hair and gently whispering in a broken, strained voice over and over again, "I love you, son. I love you, son." Chuck's death tore me apart in ways so deep that a part of my heart was left there with him on that day in Trauma Room 3. It's true, my brother did have an overactive heart. His vibrant spirit gave him so much life while he was alive, and it caused him to die an early death. So it was no surprise that the huge church wasn't big enough to hold everyone for his funeral mass. Accommodations had to be made for an overflow crowd. The superintendent of Chuck's school district, where Chuck was athletic director, gave the eulogy, and in her closing words, captured the essence of his life with these words. Somewhere on Chuck Cook's death certificate, it will say that there was something wrong with his heart. But those of us who knew Chuck and the kind of person he was know the truth. There was nothing wrong with this man's heart. I didn't feel much in my life after that until 3 months later, and I believe it was my brother who gave me a reason to smile again. On July 30th, 2001, my first child, my son, Christopher, who had been conceived after a year of fruitless efforts, came into the world. Christopher arrived 1 week early and was born on Chuck's birthday. Charles Neal Cook, born July 30th, 1953. Christopher Charles Neal Cook, born July 30th, 2001.